strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal? If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Ryder.
Back with another edition of the Roundtable. We have an awesome panel, as always. We've got my partner in crime, D-Style Boxing. We got the Mighty Ring IQ. From across the pond, we got Base, the Kid. And we also have, from across the pond, Danny, the Lover. Glover is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. So... before we get started, I want to just send a message to all of the young people out there, just the people in general. Don't ever in your life be afraid to give your opinion. Don't ever in your life be afraid to say what you believe in your heart, right? Whether people criticize you for it, or even you may be wrong, right? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. When you edge yourself out on the diving board and you look at that 10 feet drop, right? Don't turn around and walk the other way. Sometimes you just got to jump off that diving board head first, and don't be afraid of what's down there. All right, so let's just get started. I had to get that out there, first of all. All right, so obviously we know what we're going to start off with here. Tyson Fury. I have to just, I'm president of the Fury Maniacs. We had a meeting with the Board of Governors over at Fury Maniac headquarters, and we have a lot of regrouping to do after what happened last Saturday. This was very unexpected. So I'm going to start with you, D-Style. After what you saw on Saturday, does this change your opinion on how a fight with Fury versus Usyk will play out? Supposedly in February. That's what they're saying. Who knows?
I've always felt it was going to be a tough fight for Fury regardless. I was favoring Fury, not so much anymore, to be quite frank. I understand that's a silver lining a lot of people are using. Like, man, this was great. Now it makes the Usyk fight more interesting. I don't know. I think what's happened is when you say the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, it's lost luster. It's lost a lot of credibility. It's taken a hit. People are looking at boxing as a joke. So, and that affects that fight. It doesn't mean, we all know the nuances behind it. We understand it's a good fight, and we understand Fury could win it. We understand Usyk could win it. We get that. And maybe from here to, if the fight happens February, March, because Frank Warren said, like I'm not going to let him fight Usyk with just a 6-week training camp. Like, well, you guys scheduled it for the 26th, okay? Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, you were going to do it. Like, you were going to have him do a 6-week training camp, but he's embarrassed. He canceled the post-fight press conferences. He doesn't like criticism. That's why they did it, okay? He has given some interviews here and there, but you could see it in his face. The guy's embarrassed. The guy understands he overlooked Ngannou. He understands he underperformed. And I think he knows, like, no one will ever convince me that he took it serious and that he was doing a hard 12-week training camp. And, okay, I want to know who your sparring partners were. I want to know how you prepare for this dude. I want to know, like, what exactly did you do, Fury? Like, give me a fucking break. This dude, his love handles were like anchors, bro. Like this was crazy, right? They were like balloons. Like, now, but he's always fat. Fury's never chiseled. I never said he was chiseled, but he's fatter. He's in terrible shape. Go look at his body in any of the He didn't look that good. His body didn't look that good in the third Wilder fight, but it didn't look this bad. And look, he looked like a tank in the rematch. Okay, he had those Wilder fans shook thinking he was on steroids and shit because of the way he looked, right? I don't understand what the hell he was thinking, and I think it hurt the fight. I think Usyk looked embarrassed. Usyk was like, I don't know what's going on, but you got to fight me, dude. Like, that's his attitude. Like you're going to have to see me regardless. So I think the luster of the fight, and most importantly, at a more macro level, the luster of the heavyweight championship of the world has taken a massive hit. And I originally had the idea that it's going to hurt boxing. I'll take it back a little bit, but it does hurt the heavyweight division in boxing. People already look at this division as weak. I've been saying for years that it's a weak division. I've been saying for years that it's nonsense to call any of these guys and put them amongst the greats when the sport of boxing was one of the most popular sports in America, especially, and it would get all the best athletes. A lot of guys in the NFL right now would have been boxers if boxing was still the number one sport. All right. We don't get the supreme athletes. We don't get the best athletes in boxing. We just don't. It's been like that for years. Brazil was a college quarterback that obviously didn't get drafted to the NFL, okay? And a quarterback made it to the top 5, okay, of the heavyweight rankings or top 10. That should tell you. And a quarterback could do that, but you're surprised when an MMA fighter could come and make some noise? Like we got to put some real perspective on what's going on here. This is a weak-ass division, okay? None of these dudes could hold Ali's jockstrap. None of these dudes could hold the spit bucket for Joe Frazier, okay, or for Norden, okay, for Foreman, all right? We'll go to the 90s. Shit, Trevor Burbick would wreak havoc in his fucking division. People want to talk about Tyson's era being weak. This division's weak, like by far. So I think it's hurt the fight. But it looks like we're going to get it because they're contractually obligated. But I'm going to tell you right now, this guy is he's unpredictable. He might retire. He might retire and vacate the belt. He might. We just don't know what's going to happen here. And those are my thoughts.
So, Ring, I already know your opinion going in, but I just want to ask you this. I just want to ask you this. There is some history here. There is a pattern. Like, with the Wallen fight, he had the bad cut, and everyone said, oh, going into the Wilder rematch, that cut's not healed. He's never going to be able to perform. And he put on a great performance. Then in the third Wilder fight, I thought he was kind of out of shape for that one. I don't like him at 280. I think he's better at like the 260, 265 range. Whenever I see 277, I don't like that. And he was 277 in the third Wilder fight, and that wasn't a great performance. But then after that came back Dillian Whyte. Pretty solid performance, right? If the pattern holds true, right, do you think that this version of Fury shows up against Usyk, or do you think you will see a better version of Fury against Usyk? I know you already were leaning towards Usyk beforehand, but do you think that we're going to see a better version of Fury against Usyk? And do you think it's going to be still a good fight, competitive fight?
I would say, I got a lot of thoughts on Fury. I'll just say that I didn't really make too much of how he looked with Valine, because immediately, we know our boxing. Valine is a very different fighter than Wilder. He's a southpaw, and I figured Fury don't like southpaws, yada, yada, yada. But the Valine performance didn't really affect my perception of what the second Wilder fight would look like. And the third Wilder fight, just that entire fiasco, because my entire argument is Fury is still now who he was before he fought Wilder. He is now who he was before any of that. And what really changed is people's perception of him, not he himself. People are placing too much emphasis on how he looked with a very limited boxer that has poor cardio, poor coordination, no jab, shaky punch resistance, and relies on a single punch the entirety of a round. That's his idea of a boxing match. And yeah, Fury's going to look like a bully with him, but if you're paying attention, he didn't come forward on Dillian. He knows better. Dillian wants to be in the pocket. He chose to move lateral with Dillian, walk him into punches, chose to create space. He did the same thing with Chisora, so that he didn't steamroll those fighters, and that the only time he's ever looked like any kind of a bully was with the same guy. that tells me that you didn't really change. You didn't go to Kronk and magically obtain power, because this past weekend I saw you land 3, 4, 5 right hands on Ngannou. He took him well. He took him well. This man don't know how to slip. He don't know how to roll and ride punches. He don't know nothing about that. That's not his bag. So the fact he was able to take him, if anything, it was just confirmation for me of things that I already thought, that it's not that Fury's bad. No, he's not bad, but he's definitely not what people are saying he is. So ahead of a Usyk fight, I was already leaning towards Usyk. You know that. I'm definitely leaning more towards him now, more so. I'm more confident about it, because you know that I've maintained that Fury's thing is out hustling the big, slow guys. Usyk is not that big, slow guy. There's literally nothing that you do better than him aside from being big. You don't have a better jab than he does. You don't have better timing than he does. You don't even straighten out your punches or turn them as good as he does. You don't have better feet than he does. There's a lot of things that you're missing that he has, and your only advantage is that you're bigger. That's it. You're bigger. So I was already leaning towards Usyk. I'm definitely picking him now, definitely. But that's if they even fight, because George Groves, Eddie Hearn, myself, I'm kind of wondering, are you going to fight him? Are you? Because you're shameless. You're shameless. The way you dipped out on Vladimir, they should have never let you get away with that. And they actually let you make it about mental health, when we all know that's not what that was about. That was about nandrolone. That was about you giving your boxing license up so they can't suspend you for the nandrolone they found in your system. But, you know, people have been playing this game with Fury where, yeah, we're just going to play along with whatever he says because he's such a showman, putting up with all this bullshit. Mental health my ass, bro. Your whole career, you didn't talk about that bullshit. You only dipped out because you was about to get suspended for the peds. That's what it was. And all this bullshit here in America, coming over here and rebranding yourself, I maintain the same argument I've maintained since 2018. You had a choice. You could have fought AJ for more money and more belts, or Wilder for less money and less belts. Why did you pick Wilder? Easy, because he's more beatable. So he's the same guy he always was to me.
Do you think, though, Fury has an advantage on the inside? Because I don't think Usyk is a great inside fighter. And you mentioned the jabs, and I do think Usyk has a good jab because he changes levels with it. But to me, you know, Usyk's style, he's kind of an ambush, mid-range type guy, 78-inch reach. I think Fury does have a good jab. I think their jabs are different. Like I said, Usyk changes levels, but Fury kind of throws that off-speed jab. It's kind of like a tricky jab.
To slow heavyweights. It's only effective against slow heavyweights. If he has to punch down, remember Usyk changes levels. He's already a small target.
Changes levels.
He changes levels when he does it. So if he doesn't get under that jab, if he doesn't slip that jab, if he doesn't get to the side of it and come down the pipe with a straight left hand, there's a lot that he could do to that jab, because Fury's more accustomed to hitting big targets with that jab, big slow targets than small ones. It's harder to hit a smaller target. As far as Fury on the inside, what's Fury's biggest testament to boxing on the inside? The Wilder fights. Well, Usyk's nothing like Wilder, so that throws that bullshit out.
He landed a good short up close uppercut against Dillian Whyte to get him out of that.
He landed a good short uppercut up against himself too. That's how good he is with that uppercut. Even he couldn't get out of the way of that shit. My point is, generally speaking, when I see a very tall fighter, a lanky fighter, with very long arms like Fury, because some tall fighters, their arms actually aren't that long, whereas his arms, they're actually very long. That
85-inch reach,
that hinders you on the inside because there are more holes to put punches in. It takes you longer to drive the punch because your arms are so long. So on the inside, I would actually favor Usyk over Fury, even though, you know, Fury's supposed to have all this inside game. Like I said, all of that is predicated on the Wilder fights. It's not based on other fights because you didn't fight other fighters that way. More recently, you didn't fight Dillian Whyte that way. If you're so good on the inside, no, you got on the good foot, move lateral, use the ring. Not that that's a bad plan. Just saying, you're not who they say you are on the inside. You know.
Okay, fair enough. Base, I never really knew where you were on this Usyk Fury fight. I don't know if you were leaning one way or the other. But what do you think, man?
You always knew I was leaning. Like Usyk, to me, always had stylistic advantages over that. And it's funny that you speak about you think obviously Fury can kind of get into inside, collapse the pocket, he could do better than Usyk. But the thing what a lot of people don't know, number one, Usyk knows very well how to nullify someone from being able to work in the inside. AJ is not the best of inside fighters, but anytime he tried to get on the inside, Usyk pretty much nullified that. But a lot of people don't actually know or remember that outside of obviously boxing and everything else, Usyk's also got a Sambo background. So he's used to grappling. He knows how to grapple. He knows, and obviously it's part of that training from a lot of the Soviet states and whatnot. So he is very adept and very comfortable being in the fire and being in the firing line. And as Julia said, he's got the shorter arms, which means that every punch that he throws can theoretically get to the target quicker because it doesn't have to travel as far to make trajectory. But outside of all of that, and his natural stylistic advantages, I think the fight on the weekend just exposed, yet again, Tyson Fury cannot deal well with people that have decent movement. Steve Cunningham was the kryptonite. John McDermott in the first fight moved pretty well, a lot quicker than I think maybe Tyson was expecting. He got caught several times on that. You've got someone like Otto Wallin, who, as Julius will point out numerous times, and I have to give him his credit because he tells people this, like, Wallin is very much, he's a mover, he's a pure boxer, but yet when he fought Fury, he stepped into the pocket. He pressured Fury and he moved around Fury because Fury couldn't handle that until he decided to sort of just get inside, get rough, and use his size just to try and wear him down. He doesn't like movement. And the people that he's been fighting outside of Wilder, even Wilder, for as quick as that right hand may be, that's all he's got. He's got no footwork, so you can tell when he's about to offload it. So if you're smart enough, you can brace for that. And even then, Fury fell to it 4 times. So how good is his defense really? There's a lot about him whereby I've said for years, you've heard me, we had the back and forth on, I think it was Maestro's channel that time. Obviously you was laughing when I predicted that Dillian Whyte would beat him, but I thought he would fight Dillian Whyte the same way he's now was trying to fight Deontay Wilder. And I said, well, that fight ain't going to work for you because Dillian can't get bullied on the inside like that. He's got a different background. He's got a background built for being able to work on the inside.
Basin, you see how he fought him, right? You see how he fought him.
Yeah. So it's all of these things is like I've said for years, never said that he's rubbish or anything, but I've always said he's not that good. And he's definitely everything that everyone else you'd say, oh, he's so good. He moves like a middleweight. And I'm like, he's never moved like a middleweight. I don't care what size he was. Like middleweights probably looked at that and laughed and said, all right, let's have a move around and see who gets active first. He don't even move. He didn't even outpace cruiserweights. How can he move like a middleweight when Steve Cunningham was beating him to the jab and the backhand consistently? So that whole narrative to me was like stupid. And then outside of all of that, my biggest issue is you've got him and Tommy Fury going life and death with people that only been boxing for like a couple of years. You get Tommy getting put on his ass by Jake Paul, who only started boxing in 2019. And going life and death with KSI, who literally started boxing properly around about 2019, 2020. Who's in celebrity misfits boxing. Is not even regulated by a proper commission. And Tommy's going life and death with him. Now you've got Fury going life and death with a debutant, and he's supposed to be the greatest of this era or the greatest of all time, as you like to say, with your Fury maniac cat on. It's just, I can't believe how much he was able to bamboozle you. It's ridiculous, and I thought you had sense. So it's actually crazy.
We still got time base.
I've got
to make it come back.
Maybe. All I'm going to say is I think he will look a bit better against Usyk than he did on the weekend. But ultimately, I never thought he was that good, and I actually think now he's worse than that. I don't think he can get back to any of those old levels that he had. I don't think he's going to be able to. The lifestyle's caught up to him. He can't shift the weight. His body his body composition has been awful from day. Hence why he's never got balance when it comes to taking a shot. Yeah, he's got good powers of recovery, but he hasn't really got a chin. So all of these things now, and he's getting slower, he's getting older, he can't take weight off. All of these things just lead me to say that he's food for anyone that's really active. And Usyk has seen him for years and is like, I want this fight. There's a reason the guy's been asking for the fight. He clearly sees something that a lot of the general public didn't see until the smoke screen and the veil came down. And I'm happy for that.
I want to give Joe some nightmares before anything. What I want you to know, Joe, is that he's going to knock him down several times, and he's going to stop him. Yes.
Usyk is?
Yes, because what Fury fans, I really believe it's gypsy magic. I have to, because he's been floored more times than AJ, but somehow AJ is the fragile one. He's been floored by Nevin Pajcik, Steve Cunningham, Deontay Wilder 4 times. More recently, Francis Ngannou off a counter left hook. But AJ is fragile, apparently. And I'm just telling you, and for the people in the chat, I'm reading everything you're saying. And I'm getting Spence vibes, is what I'm getting. Because if Americans love anything, it's hype. They don't like substance. They like hype.
Let's just say this to be fair. If that was AJ in there on Saturday and that happened to AJ, there'd be a lot of people dumping on AJ. People are going to be dumping on Fury right now, and he's going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to deal with it, the Fury fans. I will say this, though, Base. When you go back and you look at Usyk, since 2019, he's going to be 37 in January, right? He's getting up there. Over 100 amateur fights, right? Since 2019, he's fought only once a year, right? Hasn't been a busy schedule. I'll go to the grave thinking that body shot was clean, and I thought that he Dubois knocked the wind out of him. But I go back to the Chisora fight, and I know that's a while back. I go back to the Breedis fight, and he looked very uncomfortable on the inside, Usyk. Usyk is a mid-range guy. He doesn't like going deep in the pocket. He goes in and out, in and out, in and out. And even Tony Bellew, from range, was walking him into right hands. I had Tony Bellew up in that fight before he, credit to Usyk, he stopped him. But Bellew was measuring him with the jab on the outside, walking him into that right hand. Even AJ in the second fight, that was a competitive fight. I had it 8-4, could have it 7-5, right? And AJ was getting the jab off on him from the outside with that long reach and that, the long
AJ
right
throws
hand.
his jab a little different than Fury if you're paying attention. AJ, at least at that time,
Of course he
at
does.
least at that time, AJ's jab looks very different to Fury's. Fury's jab is this. This is Fury's jab. This is AJ's jab. He commits, turns it over. So Fury with that little probing jab that works on slow heavyweights that don't move their fucking head, that's not going to work against a small target darting around him like Goku does in those Dragon Ball Z things. You're going to be surprised. That's all I'm going to tell you. And Stefan in the comments, you're going to be surprised.
I'm going to offer up pie bets to people who are picking Usyk in this. I think we're going to turn back the clock one more time.
No, I don't think so. I think that's wide-eyed optimism because nobody likes to admit that they've been conned. I've been telling the American public for the longest time, you're being duped. You guys don't want to believe it. No. You guys don't want to believe it just because he beat Wilder. Habib, you were not saying any of this before he fought Wilder.
No. I was go to the boxing voice.
No one was. No one was. Nobody thought that Tyson Fury was the premier heavyweight for doing this bullshit all night with Klitschko. I don't believe it.
Go back listen to the boxing voice. Since 2011, I was saying this guy's going to be something. I picked him over Klitschko.
He's something, all right. He's something. He's the guy who's bringing down heavyweight boxing one shitty performance at a time. He's something.
We had the same conversation with AJ when AJ had those shaky
performances. You mean when AJ fought a boxer?
Even when
AJ fought a boxer. See, what I see is that the American public is a little bit more stubborn than the British one, which is why I love me some Brits. When a motherfucker shit, they'll tell you he's shit. When a motherfucker shit in America, they just defend the shit until you can't defend it anymore.
Listen. After what happened Saturday, people are gonna talk shit. There's no question about it.
No, he's shit, bro. If that were AJ who got floored by a dude who never boxed before, Oh my God, they fucking crucify him, bro.
But here's the thing with AJ, right? When AJ wasn't what people thought he was, people weren't going to admit that either. Could we admit
That's
that
not
AJ wasn't
true.
what people?
That's not true.
We
You're
admit AJ wasn't.
this is it's going to take you about a year to process it all, Beeb. You're judging AJ on how he looked. Wait. You're judging. I pick AJ right now. You want my honest opinion? My honest opinion? AJ beats him now. I always thought AJ could beat him. I always thought that because you guys are judging AJ based on how he looked with guys who ain't Fury. Is Andy Ruiz anything? Is Andy Ruiz?
What about
Is
Ruiz?
Andy? Well, that's the question I was going to allude to. What is it that AJ did in the Ruiz fight that got him beat? You got greedy on the inside. He's a very good fighter on the inside. You just heard what I said about Fury. I don't actually think Fury's very good on the inside. Those long arms make it hard for you to be good on the inside. All you did with Wilder, it's not like you did some Chocolatito shit, bro. It's not like you was rolling and riding and bringing counter. No, you were jabbing and holding and jabbing and holding and jabbing and holding. That was your inside game, jabbing and holding. But I gotta let Danny go, man, because I got to get you, B. I got to
be honest. No, you have the high ground right now. You're Obi-Wan and I'm Anakin right now because of what happened, man. I got to give you credit for that. But I think you're doing to Fury what people were doing to AJ. That's what I think.
Oh, wait. Let me catch this guy in a lie. Boxing pound for pound, Jack. At no point did I ever say that Dillian White would knock out Tyson Fury. If you have to lie just to have something to say, better to not say anything at all. Because everything I say is recorded.
Okay. I'm going to get to you, Danny, in 1 second. All right. Why does AJ get so much slack for getting beat by a career heavyweight who won against a unified champion on short notice? If it was anybody else not named AJ, you'd be praising Andy more than you do. I'm just going to be honest. I just don't think that loss and that win aged well because I don't think Ruiz looked good against Arreola. I don't think Ruiz looked good against Ortiz. I just don't.
But
Parker,
he did beat Ortiz. He
did. But he edged him. He edged it on my card. He had 6. He won like 114 and 112 on my card. All right. Virtuoso says Fury couldn't KO an old Klitschko. AJ finished the job. Fair enough. Okay, Chauncey Pearls. AJ still got best resume in the heavyweight division. I think AJ's been more consistent definitely been more consistent than the other two guys. Based off of consistency, I would say that's a fair statement.
I want to say to Sporting Archives, if Andy is ass, then Ortiz is ass cheeks because Andy beat Ortiz.
Ryan, this is a good debate, man. I'm not going to totally disregard what you're saying. There's an argument to be made.
I know that this is going to go down like the Spence stuff. That's why I'm not worried about it. I'll get my Thanksgiving dinner next year when it comes to Fury. I'm waiting.
All right, Danny, I'm so sorry we got a little sidetracked there. You were patiently waiting. Has this changed your opinion on this fight?
On the Fury Usyk fight?
Yes.
No, because I always thought that Usyk was going to win anyway. If you were to check out the Neutral Corner podcast, when I ask on the penultimate round, I've always said that I feel Usyk's going to win. And what the actual reason for it was because I noticed the common thing with Fury that anytime he fought a fighter that was 6'3", he would always struggle. Nevin Pajic, 6'3", dropped him. John McDermott, the first fight, beat him. Even Mr. John Fury, he even admitted his son lost, 6'3". What's his name? Steve Cunningham, 6'3". So yeah, I know that Fury was worried to fight what's his name? David Haye, 6'3" fighter. So he'd always have trouble with 6'3" guys. But then also, I noticed with Fury, he likes for opponents to come towards him because he's more of a counter puncher. The only time he started to get really aggressive is obviously in the second and third Wilder fights. But in general, he's more of a counter puncher and looks to do the herky jerky and then slap the 1-2 in and the herky jerky. But it's when he throws the jab, that's just more of a lineup, and he likes to just drop the right hand, but he kind of chops it down, kind of Lennox Lewis style, but not as skilled. Do you know what I mean? But I've always said Usyk was going to win because he's going to be moving in and out and making Fury come to him. And Fury's not good on the front foot, kind of like Eubanks Senior. Not when you get them guys on the front foot, they're quite clumsy and they walk into shots. That's why when Fury was walking into Wilder, like in the third fight, he got dropped twice. Just like in this fight, he threw the 1-2. He threw the 1-2 twice on Ngannou, got caught with the the check hook. So when you get Fury on the front foot, it's easy to catch him. And yes, Usyk's not a big power puncher. I'm not saying necessarily he will be able to drop Fury, but it wouldn't be a surprise if he's able to drop him a few times because Nevin Padgett's not no big puncher. Steve Cunningham's a cruiserweight, so if those guys can drop him, then I can imagine Usyk could. And the shots that I say 2 of the knockdowns Wilder got on Fury, it wasn't like big punches. He just kind of cuffed him and he went over. Yeah, the 12th round one in the first fight and the first knockdown in the third fight when he walked onto the right hand, they were big shots. But the other 2 out of the 4, they was not really big shots. So Usyk could drop him a few times. And I think that Fury's going to struggle with the movement and the thing that he's going to have to make the fight, because if Usyk starts going around and taunting him and making him look like a mug, the crowd's going to bay onto Fury to make the fight that you've got to go and get the little man. You're the big man, and he's just a little dosser, ain't he? So the pressure's going to be on Fury. And another thing with the thing with Ngannou, I see a lot of these these YouTube guys getting excited. Oh yeah, Ngannou's going to go around knocking out every boxer and stuff like that. I'm like, mate, let's not get carried away, sunshine. There's always an anomaly. There's always someone who is, a one-off, an exception to the rule. People don't like to talk about when 48-year-old Ray Mercer, when he slumped, knocked out, iced UFC heavyweight champion Tim Sylvia. They like to forget about that one. And he done that in 9 seconds flat. Yeah. But they don't like to remember that one. But, we've seen Jake Paul icing off UFC MMA fighters. We've seen Floyd Mayweather carry, Conor McGregor. Yes. And the thing is, I just found out today, funny enough, on my live, that Ngannou actually started off as a boxer with Carlos Takam. They started off at the same time in Cameroon. And when they went to France, somebody went and got into Ngannou's ear and told him it'd be better off and more lucrative if he goes over and starts doing MMA rather than boxing. So his actual first discipline was actually boxing, which kind of makes sense why he was able to pick it up so well. But obviously he hasn't done it for so long, so he still shouldn't be going life and death and making Fury having a stake out of him. But it shows that he has got some boxing ability, kind of like Sean O'Malley has boxing ability. I'd expect if he was to fight a boxer, he would do quite decently as well, because he looks like he had some kind of amateur background as well. But yeah, as far as the Usyk fight, I expect Usyk to beat Fury on points, and I've always said this. Fury, he is good. He is a good champion, but he makes his little special effects and his ability to cuss people and get into people's heads where people can't really reply very well. And, they start either trying to repeat after him like Wilder does, like, you dosa, and it doesn't sound right, and you add a balance. Or they just go silent. But then when you've got someone like Ngannou who's actually quite intelligent, for a man where English is his third language, anytime Fury was trying to cuss him, Ngannou was able to do witty replies. Fury tried to talk about his genitalia being big. He's like, well, if you know where I'm from, like, you wouldn't need to ask that question. When he was calling him fat at the weigh-in, he was like, well, you've won fights being fat. So what? He's like, oh, yeah. So he started to realize he couldn't get into Ngannou's head. And that kind of played him. Even when he tried to push up an Ngannou at the weigh-in, Ngannou was like looking at him, just sizing him up, looking at his legs, looking at his knees, thinking, yeah, you're looking a bit like a muffin top here. I'm looking at them legs. They're not looking really strong. That belly's looking a bit vulnerable where I'm going to hit you with that straight jab and the right hand down the middle, like Mike Tyson was teaching me in those clips. I'm looking at your chin. I'm looking at your head. Your structure's not looking really, really stable to me. That's why even in the clinches when Fury would try to hold him, Ngannou would just kind of throw him, and Fury would be like staggering on his little bandy knees. And you can see them knees. I don't think he's that road work. All them years of abuse, taking that, that Peruvian, taking that Peruvian, them what do you call it? Them London ales, all them ales and them beers and tequila, them cheeky tequilas, they've all caught up with him. And as you get older, your composition gets higher, your muscle mass decreases. So it's going to be, as Bay said, it gets hard to shift the weight. And then obviously the pressure on your knees, your ankles, it starts to swell up. You start to get gout on your feet. It ain't really nice. So even if he tries to get in shape and tries to train like a demon for Usyk, he's never going to get as trim as he would, say, when he was 20, 28, because the years of abuse have now caught up with him. And it's just like Ricky Hatton, you eat too many full English breakfasts. You're having too many, you know what I mean? That the luck of the Irish is going to run out sooner or later. So, yeah, man, Usyk win for me.
And Danny, you see how you always used to say, there's built for show and then there's built for go?
Built to go, yeah.
Yeah, well, Fury is built for no. That body is a no mas right about now.
He was built to go, but as you said, there comes a point, there's a weight limit where when you go over that threshold,
he's built to O at this point. The G's gone. There's just the O left.
I would argue, my Capricornian brother, that Fury has always had poor balance, which is why Nevin Pajcik knocked him down, which is why Steve Cunningham knocked him down, which is why he seems relatively easy to knock down. He's always had poor balance because most of the weight on his body is in the trunk. His legs are
there's
actually
no
really
argument there, my Capricorn brother. None whatsoever. I totally agree with you. I said it earlier. I did say it. So yes, we're in full sync with that one.
So Dr. Monfongo says, I'm picking Usyk, but I give Fury a 30% chance. Question for the panel. How much of a chance do you give Fury? And if he wins, is he the best of this era? We'll go with you, Base. We'll let you answer this question. How much of a chance do you give Fury? And if Fury does win, will he be the best of the era?
I think a 30% chance is that's fair. And if he does win, then you would have to say that he's got the best wins overall, like in totality, because Usyk's undefeated. Usyk beat the other guy who we considered was the best, which was AJ. He's already got the Klitschko win, and some people think Wilder's good. I never did, but okay, if you're going to have him up in the top 3, top 5, whatever, then he's got the best wins of the era. He still hasn't got all of them, but he's got the best. So if you wanted to say he's the best of the era, I wouldn't argue. But I still personally feel like there'd be more that needs to be done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that as well, because you got to remember, when you're a heavyweight, when you're a champion in general, yes, it's good to get the Louis Vuitton win and the Gucci win and the Prada win. But then there's also those high street brands, which are those one-aways where everyone looks at you and like, Rotty, where'd you get that from? And there's always those one where you can actually outdress a man. It's not always about the label. You can buy the bags and you can buy the tags, but there ain't no sign saying you can buy swag. So what Fury needs to do is fight guys like Martin Bakole. There's the new up-and-comers like the Gerard Andersons, the Makhmadovs, the Jalalovs. There's Martin Bakole. There's Zhili Zhang. So you need to go through the plethora of champions. I mean, of contenders to really prove, because there's things like Martin Bakole's volume, work rate, Zhang southpaw, backhand hook, which there's all these different things that you've got to deal with. Something that Lennox Lewis, where he was going through as a champion, he was fighting all different styles. The Michael Grant, the David Tours, there's 2 different styles. So you're just trying to fight one particular thing, going for the name one person where you think, yeah, I can get him. You're not really a risk taker because you're not taking on all challenges, mandatory, proper voluntaries. Your voluntary was Ngannou, and you nearly become a cropper, Sunshine. You slipped on the banana skin, Sunshine. You ended up like a hot potato, and that's why you ended up looking like an idiot. And then now, as Base the kid said, your brother went life and death with 2 YouTubers who, Jake Paul getting dropped, and then KSI, and then now you're getting dropped by a UFC fight, and now you've got civilians on the street talking like if they box for 6 months, they can go in there and start taking people like myself on, and put people like Richard Riakpo, and people like Chayo Pataya on, and people like Terence Crawford on, and people like Canelo Alvarez on.
Do you guys think this fight with Usyk actually happens? They're saying it's going to happen. Do you guys have doubt that it's going to happen or not?
Serious doubts.
Serious doubts. You have doubts, Base.
Yeah.
Danny, you have doubts the fight happens?
What, for February?
Yeah.
I think Fury back in our corner for February. I think it does.
Think it's going to happen, D?
I'm going to say I don't know. No, nobody knows. Look,
Okay.
It may happen, may not. In my breakdown, I did say I doubt it's going to happen.
Okay, fair enough. So let's jump to this next topic.
Break down,
go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, if it does break down, all is going on Fury, and I don't want. And Joe, you got to let him go, man. You got to let him go.
Oh, if this fight doesn't happen, he's gone. He's got to be gone. I'm quitting. I'm quitting my post. If this fight doesn't happen, I'll have to quit my post. That'll be the last. That'll be the last straw. If this fight does not happen, then it's over. I will concede everything. All right, so let's jump to the next topic about Ngannou.
Did you get that super chat?
Well, I'm sorry. Fury loves Corey's. Okay. So let's get to this next topic here. It's been said by Mauricio Sulaiman that Francis Ngannou is going to get a top 10 ranking. Do you guys think that that's fair? Does Ngannou, after this loss, as close as it was, I thought he won the fight, but coming off this loss, do you guys think he deserves a top 10 ranking? We'll start with you, Base.
I'll be real. No. Top 20, yeah, I could see that, because ultimately, look, we still don't know what his actual level is. He done amazingly against Fury, and I've said, to me, Fury won the fight. I had it 95-94 to Fury. I had it 6 rounds to 4. I gave Ngannou the 3rd, the 4th, the 7th, and the 8th. There was arguments for the 2nd, the 5th, and the 6th. Were all kind of swing roundish as well, so you maybe
10
could
was
have
close too. 10 was close too.
Yeah, and the 10th, that was a potential swing round. That I just felt that Fury, he basically edged them. But I said Fury won the fight, but Ngannou won everything else. He won the battle, he won the war, he won the narrative, he won the minds and the hearts of the people, he won the event. He won everything apart from the actual scorecards.
Proud to be from Cameroon.
Yeah. Very much so, and I do believe, but ultimately, me, and just bear in mind, I'm someone that doesn't like Tyson Fury, and I think he won the fight. So if that's the case, you can't then give a debutant a top 10 ranking coming off of a loss. I'm sorry, like there's people in your actual top 10 who have, number one, they've been paying their sanctioning fees and whatnot, but they've got legit credible wins against top 10 and other sort of contenders. So if you want to rank him, okay, 15 in the top 15, you want to put him on number 15, fine. Put him in the 20. Make him have to earn his rank by actually winning a fight against either one of your ranked contenders or someone that you know is of a credible standing. So, like when people are talking about Manuel Charles with that WBA regular, okay, it makes sense. Derek Chisora would still be in the top 20 of a WBC rankings. Derek Chisora, that makes sense. If someone wants to say Jerome Miller because of the former kickboxing background, okay. Dillian White, because he's obviously come from an MMA background as well. These are all people that are there. Let's see where you actually are with one of the other contenders, fringe contenders, blah, blah, blah. Then if you win that fight, then you've got more of a reason to be in the top 10. But me, for you fighting your first fight and coming off of a loss, as great as you did, you don't deserve a top 10 ranking. Like this isn't, and the same thing with Lomachenko. Lomachenko was getting, special dispensation left, right, and center, but at least he won his first professional fight. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think he deserves a 10, but I wouldn't be mad at him getting like a 20 or a 15.
Yeah, I thought it was a 95-94 fight either way. I thought the fight really could have gone either way. I actually did edge it to Ngannou. I gave Ngannou the 10th round. That was the round that 2 of the judges gave him. A lot of boxing fans did not give Ngannou the 10th. I thought he edged it myself. All right, shout out to Drew. He said, did I miss IQ roasting Habib? Like I said, Usyk smokes fear in any era. I mean, Ring's got the high ground right now. He there's nothing I can do right now until that Usyk fight happens. I mean, we're coming off an embarrassing performance. There's nothing we can say to defend that. Danny, like I said, the fight could have gone either way. Based off of that, do you think that Ngannou does deserve to be ranked? Maybe not even in the top 10, but let's say top 15.
No, because who's he beat in the top 15? Who's he beat in the top 20? Who's he beat in the top 50? So all those guys who've been plugging away in their career all these years, what, he just gets to skip the queue. Remember, there's guys who's in like probably rank 25, 30. Those guys could give champions run for the money. If anything, on any given night, one of them could beat them. Where's someone like Gerard Anderson, Jalalov, Matt Madog, those guys.
Even Frankie Sanchez.
They're not necessarily top 20, but they can win a world title. Martin Bakoli. So what? He just gets to jump the queue off of a loss because he had a valiant loss. Yes, he done very well, but you can't rank him in no top 20 because then he'd be able to get a voluntary shot at a champion. No, I don't think that's right for all the guys who've been plugging away and using this as their avenue of a career for the past 5, 10, 15 years where, Ngannou, yes, he's a big brand name, but he's jumped over to boxing and he's 0-1 at the end of the day. And I scored it 95-94, the same as base. So yeah, Fury won the battle, but he didn't win the war because he had a stakeout and just literally won by 1 point. So Ngannou, if he does what he should do to get a ranking, it's kind of like what Base was saying and alluding to, fight someone like a Manuel Char or a Christopher Lovejoy, a Dillian White, or I wouldn't say Dillian White, actually, that might be a bit tough. And plus he's got problems with his testing at the moment, but a Chisora, and beat one of those guys, and then you will be eligible. And then I can't say, oh, but why? Because he has got a win over a legitimate name brand contender. Because then you can, but until he's 1-1, then I'm sorry that he can't be ranked, unfortunately.
So, Ring, would this be a slap into the face to all the other guys in the rankings if a guy making his pro debut, coming off a loss, gets ranked in the top 10? Does this send a good message to the rest of the division, in your opinion?
No, it alienates, just like Base said, just like Danny said, it alienates all the other ranked fighters who have been doing this for much longer than Francis Ngannou. It's actually wrong that these people have been giving you sanctioning fees so that a debutante could get the cut ahead in the line who hasn't been paying sanctioning fees. Remember that, I talked to a fighter the other day, I won't say the name. They told me they got to pay $16,000 in sanctioning fees to the WBA. $16,000 out of their purse. So when you think about these fighters and the sanctioning fees that they got to pay on a regular basis just to have a rank, it's not right to let Ngannou skip ahead of them. Now, the silver lining is they're talking about getting him back out there December 23rd, that the show will go on. And maybe he fights Joseph Parker. Those are some of the names in the running. Maybe Derek Chisora, maybe Zhilei Zhang. So it's like it's kind of much ado of nothing, because even if he does get a rank right now, we'll see if he deserves it. In December, we'll see if he deserves it. If he doesn't, he'll lose ground. If he does, all right, power to you. But it's just that it's nauseating what the WBC does to boxing, that you're literally bringing the standard of boxing down with these constant games and favoritism that you're playing. They're like, yo, dog, you really got people that have been paying you fight by fight, sanctioning fees. And you don't, it's like the Adames thing at middleweight. They're like, dog, like, this dude is paying you sanctioning fees for that interim, and he is no closer to a title shot now than he was a year ago. It's wrong. So no, I don't think Ngannou deserves a rank. I don't think he does.
All right, shout out to Drew again. 199 super chat says these rankings are for sale. Let's be real. Okay.
Yeah, he's right.
Do you agree with the rest of the panel on this one? Do you think Ngannou deserves a ranking, or think that's kind of like publicity?
In a perfect world, I would agree 100%. Unfortunately, boxing isn't, little by little, year by year, we're chipping away the legitimacy of the sport, right? And we're turning this into a spectacle, into a circus, year after year, right? It's happening over and over again. These are the consequences of, we turn around one day and I understand it's not to this degree, but Virgil's #1 WB in the WBC, and then all of a sudden you put Keith Thurman there because he beat Mario Barrios. Like this, we don't follow a real protocol here. There's no like, and they don't answer to anybody. And the only ones that can really make a stand here are the fighters. If the fighters collectively said, yo, you're going to stop this nonsense or you don't get any sanctioning fees, then maybe they will stop. Okay, we're talking about, I know Ring mentioned the WBA. Terrence Crawford hasn't gotten his fucking belt yet. And what percentage? I'm sure there's a cap maybe, but so maybe it's not 3%, but I'm sure it's a big amount of money, a good chunk of money that they got, probably 6 figures from Terrence Crawford in that fight. And they can't get him a fucking belt that's not even made of real gold. Like you can't get him a belt. Like all those eliminator belts all look like the WBA world title. I know you have a bunch of them laying around. You can't get one of those. You can't get somebody get the plaque that says Terrence Crawford. I mean, you didn't know ahead of time he's going to win anyway. Were you really thinking like there wasn't a good possibility he could win that fight? He could have that belt ready. I mean, this is stupid, right? Not to go off track, but the sport of boxing is not following a protocol here. Mauricio Sulaiman is going to justify this the same way he justified Yildirim being #1, being mandatory because he gave Durrell a good fight, even though he lost. He lost that fight, and he was going to be the mandatory for David Benavidez. That's why you had to fight him. Because he was a mandatory. Like this is stupid. Now, I get that the Ngannou thing is even more egregious, but once you start enabling behavior, yes, it only starts getting worse. So I think the fighters need to start saying, you know what? You don't do this shit no more. Like, if Ngannou gets ranked, I stop paying them sanctioning fees. That's me. Yeah. Especially if you're a name. You should stop doing it. Fuck that shit. Like for what?
Yeah, like if you're Frankie Sanchez, what are you paying them shits for? You're not going to get a title shot.
Yeah, like what is the point here, right? Yeah, and all and then the champion gets to announce his retirement, and you give him like a 4-month grace period to decide whether he's going to leave or not. Well, you got guys waiting in the wing to fight. It's even worse at middleweight, right? Well, what's stopping Tyson Fury from saying, "Oh, you know what? The internet really came at me. You know, Ring IQ made some videos about me, and it really got on me." And Danny on the Roundtable really, it's affecting my mental psyche. My mental health, and my mental health is very important here. So I'm going to have to take a break, and Mauricio's going to come out and be like, we support our champions through great times and bad times, and we will support blah, 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 blah. You know what, bro? You're not your champion's promoter. You're not his manager, you stupid fuck. You're supposed to be looking out for the little guy. That's the only reason you exist. Those big names already got the best managers in the game. They got the best promoters in the game. That's not your job, bro. Your job is to help the little guy, work up the rankings, and you force those dudes to fight them. That's your point. That's the whole point of the mandatory system. And all that is getting torn apart, and it's in the long run, it's only hurting the sport. Should he, in a perfect world, get ranked? Absolutely not, because by hook or by crook, it doesn't matter. He didn't win the fight. Okay, you don't go through this. Like, if you lose the game and that you needed that game to make the playoffs, you don't make the playoffs in the NFL. Okay, if you're playing you should have won that game, but you didn't make the World Cup. Sorry, you didn't qualify. It doesn't matter if that country never played soccer before, football. Sorry. All right. It doesn't matter if they never played football before. Okay. And they should have won that game to qualify for the World Cup. You didn't make the World Cup. You lost. Okay. It is what it is. There's an L on this record. Very impressive loss. Very impressive performance. You could argue he won. No doubt about it. But he didn't win. It just is what it is. So if you're gonna do things properly, then what you do is you put him in a fight that will put him in a position to get ranked. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, but Mauricio doesn't care. Mauricio's the same dude that was gonna, and I think this is worse than Ngannou. He was gonna rate Jake Paul if Jake Paul beat Tommy Fury. That's even worse than at least Ngannou is a legitimate combative He's a legitimate kickboxer and UFC
But
fight.
to be fair, at least Jake Paul had actually had 5 victories before then. Like he had actually had
Against
5
a
victories.
gamer and against MMA fighters.
I get it, but we had wins. So we're talking about someone who had wins as opposed to someone who just lost, and that's the only fight they had.
And
But I
remember,
will say this.
I want to say
point-
this that what D Style says is basically the solution unto itself, because every fighter that pays these people sanctioning fees, knowing they're not going to get a title shot, you're enabling them. And I literally do not understand for the life of me why they do it, because these sanctioning fees, if you're talking about 3% of a $350,000 purse, you're out a few $1,000s. Why are you wasting it on them when you're not going to get it? Like, bro, you're Frankie Sanchez. You're not getting a title shot. No.
So one more thing I wanted to just say really quick. Unfortunately, it's like on Drew's Super Chat's Sporty style, it's a money laundering system. I agree. Right? That's why I said in a perfect world, but it's not a perfect world. And this sport, year by year, is chipping away the legitimacy of the ranking system. The ranking system is already a joke, guys. I'm sorry. I know for a fact that the guys, that there's money under the table that to get guys ranked. I know that for a fact. It is what it is. All right. And they're doing it out in the open now. They don't give a shit, bro. Okay. So that's all I wanted to say. And Jake Paul represented boxing better than Fury.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
What I was going to say, what you were saying, D Styles, is very true about the sanctioning fees. And hey, Base, I know you don't like my boy, but my boy was the guy who spoke out about them sanctioning fees, Mr. Errol Spence, and he was saying, "Hey, man, where's all that money going, man? You're taking our money, man." So Terence Crawford ain't even getting the belt after brocking up my boy. They're disrespecting after he's at what's it?
I'll give you that.
3, 6, not 12%. 12.
It's a lot, man.
Yeah, I give you that.
That's why I think sometimes Undisputed can be overrated, man, with these fucking 4 belts,
But that's the thing. You just need to get it to say you have it and then get rid of them. I was Undisputed. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, like it wouldn't be the sanctioning fees and the entire infrastructure wouldn't be bad if they were performing the one function they're there to do, and that's move the ranks. And the WBC clearly doesn't want to. Like, they more than anyone want to freeze their ranks to enable a lot of stuff to happen. So I just don't understand why a fighter would literally, like, if you're Carlos Adames, why are you giving these people a percentage of your purse? They're not going to order the Charlo fight. They're not.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Oh, one more thing. Okay, non-profit my ass cheeks, okay? This dude, and I got an echo there, but I don't know what that is, but look, this dude, all right? O'Shaquie Foster, your champion was in your country, Mexico, defending the belt. This was a non-title fight, but you made up a fake-ass belt, okay, like whatever they call it, season, whatever belt, right? And your ass was over there, okay? That's where you were, all right, Mr. Non-profit, my fucking ass, non-profit, all right? Doing votes in Hawaii, because you could do that shit on the fucking Zoom call, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? We all the members of the WBC, we have to go to Hawaii to vote on making Canelo franchise champion. Yeah, it sounds like a fucking paid vacation to me, off the blood, sweat, and tears of the fighters that you screw over all the fucking time. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah.
All right, shout out to Virtuoso. It says D-Style Gilbert's 3D printer broke. That's why Bud doesn't have the WBA belt. I think you already read this one. Sport D-Style. It's a money laundering system. All right, and what's the other one that we just had there? Okay, Joe B for president, WBC president. No, thank you.
But 12%, that's more than we pay for national insurance, Base. Disrespect.
Danny, I think I paid more in pay-per-views than I paid for health insurance this year, if I'm being honest. If I'm telling you the truth, I spent a shit ton of money on pay-per-views.
Until the fighters themselves take a stand, just like D-Style said, because it's them that have to take the stand, them and their managers collectively, that we're not going to, like, unless I'm fighting the WBC champion, then I'll pay the sanctioning fee because the belt is on the line. But you're not going to extract money from me for the next 5 to 6 fights based on you sanctioning my fights, just so that when the time comes, you're not going to fucking order it anyway. So you've been taking money from me for no reason.
Yeah. All right. So, after this weekend, we're hearing Malik Scott say that they're in talks with Ngannou. Eddie Hearn saying that they're reaching out to Ngannou. How would you rate his chances against a Joshua or a Wilder? Do you think those fights would be intriguing? We'll start with you, Danny. How do you think you do against those two guys?
Against Wilder, it's a different style. He might do okay with the jabbing sense at first, but I think when Wilder shoots the 1-2, it'll be very interesting to see if he's able to take those shots. He was able to take everything Fury could throw, but Fury, I think a few people think he's some kind of banger all of a sudden, but he's not a banger. To me, he's never been a banger. He's a man who will wear you down. Even like when you're talking about the Steve Cunningham fight, I know you said ring IQ that his inside game weren't good, but it was actually his inside game which he resorted to when he realized he couldn't actually beat Steve Cunningham on the outside, because as Bass said, Cunningham was beating.
Ring wants to get in. Look at him.
Hold on, let me land. Bass was beating him to the jab and beating him to the right hand. So what he started doing is marching forward and just boom, boom, boom. And remember, in the end, he kind of grabbed him and then just went, and that's how he took him out.
Bro, I'm just saying that his idea of inside game is basically throwing his weight around. There's a difference between the inside game you see on an R tour that'll beat up your arms and then slip one under the elbow or just past the elbow, or an uppercut up the middle that'll split the guard. Whereas Fury's idea of inside game is all predicated on him throwing his weight at you, throwing his weight around. It's not actually the punches. It's just him muscling you around. And even with that, like I said, I don't think he's particularly great at that. But his idea of inside game is very crude, I should say. Crude and simple. And the reason it didn't work, I don't want to dominate it, but
is it like dirty boxing ring? Dirty boxing?
Yeah, I mean, you're just smothering, basically. You're smothering. It's not inside game more than it's smothering.
Yeah, it's not Riddick Bowe style where there's finesse. So I know what you're talking about. What he's doing is smothering, literally held him and then smashed him.
I like
that. Even with the Wilder shot at the end, he kind of held and then smashed him. It's like it's not yet, and he's doing it against like 200-pounders. Wilder weighs 212,
224. 224.
No, remember the first fight he was 212.
Yes.
So I know what you're talking about. So yeah. What was the question again? Sorry, Joe. I lost my track.
You answered it about Wilder, about how you think that.
Oh, sorry. Yes, when Wilder drops the right hand, I'm not sure Ngannou will be able to take the dynamite of that. With AJ, I think AJ's best bet is to probably use his textbook boxing, because he has got a very good jab and good right. He's good at boxing, and he'll be able to sort of outbox Ngannou. Ngannou, yes. He is an exception to the rule that he's a lot better than we thought, but maybe fighting against a different style like Wilder and AJ, they'll expose the levels in a boxer versus an MMA fighter. I think better. I know Eddie Hearn's trying to push this AJ fight and make it some Rumble in the Jungle 2 in Africa, but I think AJ will show up in Ngannou, and then the UFC hardcores and the civilians on the street, they'll be quite disappointed with the way someone like AJ and Wilder be able to actually probably dismantle Ngannou a lot more emphatically than they would realize. I think because Fury's poor showing, I think people think these fights will be highly competitive. But if you're going to be honest, I would expect someone like Martin Piccoli to beat Ngannou. I'd expect someone like Joseph Parker to beat Ngannou. I'd expect someone like Andy Ruiz to beat Ngannou. So
AJ beats Ngannou easily too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if these guys do, then I'd expect guys like AJ and Wilder to deal with someone like Ngannou, because if you used to throw him in with anyone from the top 20, I'm kind of biting a piece from Bass's review video. I'm not sure I would put him to be competitive, but I'm not sure I would say he would beat any of the top 20 guys if we're going to keep it a buck tonight.
I agree.
So shout out to Drew. He said, "Can anyone at Heavy Muscle Francis inside?" I think it means
yes. Arslanbek Makhmudov can. Martin Piccoli can also.
Jalalov can.
Jalalov definitely can.
Richard Torres.
So Ring, now that the cat's out of the bag, Go ahead, Danny. What you say?
FA a Jagbar.
FA can't, bro. FA can't, bro. Not FA. No. And look, I love my Nigerians, but no, he not FA. I'm sorry.
I'm not crazy about FA. I don't, it's a little bit.
I tried, bro. I really tried, bro. I really tried.
But Ring, now that the cat's out of the bag, and I think people know that you got to train for this guy, it's going to be a different ball game with moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, but the thing is, what saves Wilder, and I'll keep it short, is that just like Danny just said, and I said it in my video about 2 days ago, that it's different because Wilder's going to hang back to set up the right. Ngannou doesn't slip, roll, or ride punches. He doesn't have head movement. So in all likelihood, he's going to try to catch it on the guard. If you do that, it's going to land. And then it becomes a question of, can you take this punch? And that's really what it is. Does Wilder still have power on that shot? Because, well, he hasn't boxed in over a year. His timing can't be all that great after that. He's in his late 30s like Ngannou. But, hey, Ngannou boxed in the last 12 months. You didn't. So it's really a question of, it's a very different fight than the Fury fight. It's less mind games, and he's going to land that right hand. If I'm sure of nothing else, Wilder lands that right hand. The question is, can Ngannou take it? Now, if it's AJ, call me what you want, call me a fanboy. That's an easy fight for AJ to win, bro. Because it's all about range. It's all about distance, bouncing back and forth with the jab, pumping out the jab. And he might get a right hand in there. Maybe it drops you, maybe it doesn't, but he beats him. I don't have a doubt in my mind. He beats that guy, bro. Easy pick.
Yeah. Wake up call, Disto, against these guys. They think,
So look, he's going to take these guys more serious. These guys are going to take them more serious. Obviously, they're not going to underestimate them to any severe degree. So that's already changing the game. The element of surprise isn't there as much. Keep in mind, we can't rule this out. I think he does have a kickboxing background. And I think people need to put that in perspective. He did start off boxing. I believe he's had 1 or 2 amateur boxing matches. So it's not it's not quite just your average. It's not the same MMA guys that Jake Paul was fighting. It isn't. Askren was a wrestler that doesn't even know how to throw a punch. He's probably the worst striker in the history of MMA, right? These other guys, no offense to them, they have a wrestling background. I forget the name of the other guy. He's a wrestler.
Tyron Woodley, but don't forget Anderson Silva had a legit boxing background as well.
Yeah, for sure. But Anderson Silva was also old. It's almost. And the fight looked weird. I'm not gonna say any more than that, but the fight looked a little awkward. But
he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Yeah, but I get it. He's a lot bigger than Chavez, though.
He was like 3 years old, 3 years before.
And Chavez had the same issue Fury had. He didn't take it serious, and he didn't train for that fight. But yeah, Jake Paul did better than Chavez Jr. Let that sink in. Another guy that trying to represent the sport about unbelievable, right? But anyway, my point is this: there's no surprise factor here. But what I want to make sure people understand is that Ngannou could get better, right? Ngannou could improve. The more he boxes, the better he's going to get. However, there's a double-edged sword. Now, trainers are going to have footage on Ngannou. Okay, now they're going to be able to break him down a little bit and understand his habits. That's something that they didn't quite have in terms of boxing, because he did not box. If you watch his UFC fights, he fought nothing like that for obvious reasons. It's a different sport. The stance is different. The technique is different. But I think he was able to pick it up better than most MMA fighters will because of his background, right? Other kickboxers with his Chris Algieri, all right, Vitaly Klitschko, Troy Dorsey had a lot of success. Okay, Troy Dorsey became IBF world champion. Okay, Algieri became world champion. Algieri said he didn't even train how to throw a jab until he started to do the transition to boxing, because they don't throw jabs in kickboxing, right? So we got to keep that in mind. Ngannou might just be for power translates to boxing, and the heavyweight division is a little weak. Okay, it's a very weak era. So is he in the mix? I actually say yes. Does he beat Wilder? I'm going to say no. Wilder's not even going to bother trying to grapple Ngannou or try to get on the inside like Fury does to muscle guys or whatever. He's not even going to do that. He's going to lay back, stay away from Ngannou. He's not going to engage in any way, shape, or form, okay, on the inside with him. And there's no doubt in my mind those punches down the pipe are going to land on Ngannou. And the question is, and I know those Africans can take punches historically, even in boxing. They could take a punch. I saw De La Hoya hit Ike Ortega with every left hook that he had in his arsenal. He could have knocked that dude out, right? So maybe if Ngannou could take a shot, right, then he'll win. But boy, is that like that's a big punch. Whether you could dislike Wilder all you want, like criticize his boxing, the guy's like a sniper with that right hand, and it's gonna land. Okay, yeah. Especially on someone that doesn't have a lot of boxing experience like Francis Ngannou. I would favor Wilder in that fight, and I actually agree with Ring. I think Joshua would work Ngannou. There's always I think Ngannou would have a puncher's chance, but I think Joshua has better balance than Fury. I think he has a better offensive arsenal than Fury, and decent jab AJ has. He's got a really good uppercut. If Ngannou tries to duck low with the guard, he's gonna get him with that uppercut, bro. Yeah. And I don't think and Joshua could punch. Ngannou's not gonna walk through him like in any way, shape, or form. It's not gonna happen.
He doesn't have a boxer's muscle memory for as well as he did. If you go back and you watch that fight, you'll see that he doesn't have a boxer's muscle memory. He just took Fury by surprise.
He looked tired in the middle rounds, and Fury was out of shit. You couldn't take advantage of it.
It's just boxing fans living in extremes, because that's what we do from one fight to the next. We live in extremes. We see how well he did, and we assume that, well, every fight henceforth is going to look like this. And it's like, no, now they know to take you seriously. And when they do, some of them are going to fuck you up. So unless your next fight is Manuel Char or Derek Chisora, and even Derek might push you, because Derek ain't with that Fury shit, bro. I'm here on business. Either you going to knock me out or I'm going to knock you out. That's how he fights. That's how he's been fighting since I was a kid. That's how he still fights. So
yeah, the more Ngannou fights, okay, the more holes people are going to see in his game. And that's just that. Like that point blank period. And just for the record, I would favor Fury heavily in a rematch against Ngannou.
Oh, yeah, I would too. Even though I can't stand Fury, but yeah.
Like the stars aligned for Ngannou. That's as bad as Fury's going to come. And he still didn't get the W. Let's just be like, you know what I mean? So if Fury just does a little better, I mean, it's probably wide in the scorecards. And if he does a lot better, he probably takes him out of there. So that's that.
Mm-hmm. So base, can Ngannou get much better at 37 years old? Did he in that fight? Do you think he reached his peak? And I think you said you don't think. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you say in your video that you don't think that he could beat a guy in the top 20, or you already have trouble beating someone in the top 20? I don't know what you said.
No, in the video, I was saying that he could be competitive against quite a few people, but like I wouldn't necessarily give him the odds over a lot of those people. Yeah. That being said, he can get better. He's only been taking the actual discipline serious for the last year, if that. Bear in mind, obviously, coming off of a double reconstruction knee surgery. So he's having to learn it on the job. And he seems to have the ability. He's almost a bit like a Taskmaster from the MCU. Like, he's got that memory where he sees something, he can copy it. Maybe not as perfect as what Taskmaster can do, but he seems to be able to soak up knowledge very quickly. So I think he can improve. With regards to him and Wilder, I actually would favor him to beat Wilder for two reasons. Ooh. Number one, a lot of people weren't actually looking and assessing his footwork. His footwork was actually pretty good in the ring, and he was very quick to get to the target when he wanted to get. There was a couple of times he got to the target but hesitated to actually throw the shot because Fury might have been doing something he didn't want to throw and maybe miss. But there were several times he closed that distance on Fury very, very quickly. And outside of that, and how his footwork is, obviously Wilder hasn't got the greatest of footwork. Wilder's balances and all that, he has that very wide stance. But Wilder's never really fought punchers. Luis Ortiz is probably the hardest puncher he's actually fought, and you can tell Wilder, he's almost like a bit of a nervous energy. He has a bit of he throws shots he's like get off of me type shots, and then they just happen to be strong. Well, he's going to be opposite the ring, someone that arguably hits harder, because if we're looking at the metrics, like he's got the hardest punch in all of combat sports based on metrics. He's got the same range as Wilder, and he's got quick feet as well. Plus, he's not typical. He's not sort of that typical style. So if he was to fight Wilder like now, I would give him very good odds to knock out Deontay Wilder.
I contend this based though. I want to contend this that because Wilder doesn't throw very many punches in a round, inadvertently, advertently, he baits you to throw so he can counter what you throw. I don't know if he does it on purpose. I don't know if that's just his way of set. But any Wilder fight, he's gonna hang back. He's gonna throw that shit jab. That's shit. And then when you step in, moop. So you got to give him that.
I agree.
When Francis Ngannou, even in MMA, he's tightened it up a bit, but when he throws his hook or his straight, he falls over the front foot, and that's the thing that Wilder is waiting for. For when you fall over that front foot,
yeah.
I don't know about the metrics, by the way, but like almost every Wilder knockdown of Fury looked more hurt than he did in the Ngannou knockdown. I just want to point that out. He looked more embarrassed from the knockdown against Ngannou.
Yeah.
But against Wilder, he almost had him out in that first fight, and he looked hurt in that third fight in that fourth round.
But that being said, the Ngannou knockdown, that was he knocked him down with an arm punch. Like literally, he didn't even load. He didn't load up on that left hook at all.
Look, this is the real question, boxing fans. Boxing fans, are you prepared to support Deontay Wilder if he takes the sport of boxing on his back? Are we rooting?
Look, let me just say this: the right hand that Ngannou landed in the 8th, if Wilder lands a right on Fury, Fury goes down.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind.
I'll tell you what, I'll be a Wilder fan that day. I got to put my Cameroonian nationality aside and root for the American. I'm rooting for Wilder if he fights in Ghana.
For the sake of boxing, Ring, is that what
for the sake of boxing and the Avengers, I'm rooting for Wilder.
For the FBA, Foundation of Black American.
I have to put my Cameroonian family aside.
Does that fight end? Does it end by regardless of who wins, does it end by knockout? Is there any chance it goes to this?
Absolutely not.
I think it ends by knockout if it's Ngannou. I think it goes points if it's Wilder. However, let me kind of get back to that point. One other thing that I was gonna mention, and Julius, you kind of touched on it when you said that Wilder, like he doesn't throw a lot, but Wilder also doesn't have a great gas tank. So if you've got someone like Ngannou who is, as he knows that Ngannou is a legit puncher, regardless of whether he knows that this is probably the hardest punch he's going to be in. He's going to be razor like connected and concentrating. Ngannou's going to be, doing that little step forward, that slight slip out of range, possibly making Wilder bite on that feint, and Wilder will drain him. He'll drain his own energy.
We're living in extremes because of what happened on Saturday. Ngannou.
Can I finish my point? Come on, I didn't jump onto your. Come on now. I'm just saying. Right. So I feel that he will look to pressure Wilder more, which will make Wilder react more than he usually does against people that he doesn't believe can hit as hard. He knows this guy can punch. That's my point. So I feel like he will bite on more. He will try and he will do more of that get off me type actions and possibly tire himself out and then get caught with something. With regards to the AJ fight now, I 100% believe that AJ like toys with him in the ring, and unless Ngannou's chin is made out of kryptonite, vibranium, adamantium all put into one, I do think he will catch him eventually throughout the later rounds, probably rounds 9, 10. And he will sort of take him out, or at least get him to a point where the ref sort of jumps in and says, okay, maybe that's enough. That's my opinion on those two. But that's not to say Wilder can't beat him also. I just think that Ngannou beats him at this point just for the reasons I stated from what I've seen and my
Base, come on, Base. Let me get a bomb squad. Let me get a bomb squad. Come on.
That's what you get.
Bomb squad.
Whoa, Base, please.
That's harsh, Base.
Please,
Jesus
please.
Christ, bro.
Please, Base.
This is Capricorn. This is what we do. It's just
Just telling you, I think Wilder's got a shot.
So
that's fine. And I said he could win. But
Base zero chance against AJ, right?
Oh yeah, it's close to. I'd say 10% because he could catch AJ coming in as well. But
I think the AJ fight's a much more difficult fight.
Yeah, and with Wilder, I know you're saying about his engine base, but his engine was only bad when he was trying to pump up for Fury because he was worried about Fury leaning on him. I know he'd probably be the same with Ngannou leaning on him. His grapple game is going to be even better. But his best bet is to come in his normal 225, 224, 226. But when he starts trying to go into that muscle stuff in 230, 235, that's what wears him out, is the air muscle. Because as I say, there's built for show and built to go. And when he starts trying to do the air muscle Iron Man thing, that the lactic acid builds on him very quickly. Look when he did that bench press, and he went, and he got up.
Oh, this dude is 6'7". He's 6'7", benching 130 something pounds. I'm like, this has got to be a fucking joke.
I think it was over 200. But
Ring, it was 315. Ring, it was 315.
It was 315. Are you sure?
Hold on. In defense to Wilder, when you have long arms like that and you're lanky, you're not going to bench as much.
It's very true. I can attest to that. My bench press is my worst part in the gym because my arms go back too far to properly. I've got very long arms. It's not easy. Unless I use a sling.
See the many plates on the bar.
I can do it. Otherwise, it's very hard.
No, but
I don't even bench press anymore, Base. I just use dumbbells. I like dumbbells. I like the range of motion with the dumbbells. I hate the bench press.
But
I'll tell you what, the key to the bench press, if you're just benching to get your pecs up, you don't need a lot of weight. Honestly, if you're just benching to sculpt your pecs, you don't need a lot of weight. You just need to focus on the form. Now, if you're benching to lift up a little Volvo, well, that's different.
But when you're 54, you don't need a lot of weight either, too.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't.
I don't need a lot of weight. All right, so let's move on to this outstanding fight that we had. This was probably, obviously, I think this was the best fight. I think no one will argue with this. Usyk Foster over Eduardo Hernandez, phenomenal performance. But I'm a little disappointed what I heard. I don't think Eddie Hearn. I'm not sure if Eddie Hearn said this or someone over at Matchroom said that the Joe Cordina fight may not be next for him, and that's a fight that I would love if Joe Cordina gets wins this next fight coming up on this Saturday. So if this Cordina fight's not next for him, what do you think, Base? What are they going to do with Usyk? Because he got a lot of momentum coming off of this great win.
Well, he has, but at the moment, he's still technically a free agent. He doesn't have a promoter. Now, I'm going to assume that Eddie would have spoken to him and said, well, yo, come sign with us for now. And he might be looking potentially to get him, if he's gonna sign him, and that fight won't be next. Because in the ring, I did hear him say to Usyk Foster, hey, next unification. So, but Emmanuel Navarrete, I believe, is leaving the 130 divisions. That belt's going to be up for grabs. I could see Eddie possibly using Usyk Foster to claim that vacant title, to maybe put a little extra miles in him, get some money out of him if he does that co-promotional deal, and then try to quote unquote feed him to Joe Cordina when he's got 2 belts, so Joe doesn't have to do as much work. And then if you manage to get maybe the Hector Luis Garcia fight afterwards, and then Joe can sort of clean up that way. But rather than making him go and belt collect, where Eddie might not, because he might be one of the, maybe not a cash cow, but he might be one of those guys, okay, I can hang my hat on him. You don't want him to take the risk. You'd rather let Usyk take the risk first, and then he's good enough to claim those, and then you sort of feed him to your guy afterwards once he's a little bit more shop worn. That's kind of how I would see it. But from what I saw in the ring, he did say unification. So I have to assume that is next. They did say that would be the plan. Get both of them a win on the zone so they're visible, and then bring the two of them together afterwards. But if it doesn't happen, again, I think Navarrete's belt will be up for grabs soon, and you just maybe put him in a position and you ask for that vacant title to be put in against maybe one of the hardest guys you can find, thinking, oh, well, Shaki will still win, but it will take more out of him for Joe down the line.
Do you think that Eddie would give Lee Wood the Cordina fight first, though, or do you think that the O'Shaquie Foster fight would probably take precedent? What do you think?
No, I'd give him the Lee Wood fight first because number one, the thing is, Joe Cordina at this point, even though he said that he wants to, he wanted to unify or whatever. To be honest, I think that was before his belt got taken the first time. Now, literally, all he's talking about is making money and securing his family's future and whatever. The Lee Wood fight is the biggest money fight he can have at this point, and if he does it at City Ground, that's big money. It will do a lot more money in Nottingham than it will do in Wales at this point. He's even though he's from Wales, but he doesn't sell out in Wales. Not the way like Lee Wood can sell out in Nottingham at that City Ground. So you go there, you take that fight. Realistically, that should be a very easy fight for him because remember, this is a guy who was competing at 135 and came down to super feather. And you've got Lee Wood that's going to just be a natural super feather. Plus, obviously, Joe Cordina is a lot more. He's a lot fresher, younger, hasn't taken as much punishment, has definitely got a better chin at this point. And Lee Wood hits hard, but does that power translate up the extra weight when you consider where Joe Cordina's from, who he's been fighting, when he was at 135. So yeah, I would say again, I would see Eddie a bit like he did with Dillian White. You give Dillian the hard tasks and you give AJ the A star task or the glamour stuff, and then you just got Dillian sort of scrapping away. You use Dillian to try and take Deontay Wilder's belt so that you can then get AJ to take it from him, kind of thing. And I think that's what he would do with Shaq if that was the case. But unfortunately for him, I actually think Shaq might be the better of the two, and I think he'll come through all those tests anyway, personally.
All right, shout out to Will again. He said Wilder would get retired by Ngannou. Wow, okay. I don't know about that, but all right. So D-Style, will O'Shaquie Foster be the odd man out here, or could they do a rematch? That was such a good fight last week. Could they do a rematch? Is that a possible scenario?
Look, they could do a rematch. I think since O'Shaquie won, I would try to, even though you could argue maybe more money's in Mexico, but nonetheless, after the attempted screw job, I mean, let's be honest. Every round for I had him up, but every single round for Hernandez, that's crazy, bro. What the hell is that ref watching? I'm sorry, that judge. I mean, Jesus, like Jesus Christ. This is a rare occasion where open scoring, at least in my opinion, benefited the entertainment aspect of the fight. So sometimes it does. It's give or take, in my opinion. Maybe O'Shaquie feels he's winning and doesn't try to go for a stoppage if there's no open scoring. But I should like the idea of the rematch. But as far as the odd man out, I mean, he literally is the odd man out. He's not signed to a promotional company, right? So but that gives him some freedom, though. I wouldn't sign with Matchroom unless I know I'm going to get that Cordina fight personally. Or if it's a good enough deal where you're financially being compensated, then that makes sense as well. And I think now, after delivering such a great fight like that, I could see Ed Hearn signing him, especially after he's screaming to the hills about fights delivering and things of that nature. But I still think for Foster, that Cordina fight is the fight. Since he's fighting on his own, a Matchroom card, that's the fight that makes sense. But he's going to have to wait on the Wood fight. That's the reality. And in the meantime, does he want a rematch Rocky Hernandez? I mean, that was a tough fight. And I don't know if he wins that rematch. I would love to see it, though. He might want to clear the record and show that he could beat Hernandez in more convincing fashion. But I just want to say round 11 is a round of the year for me. That was an amazing round, and that finish, you could definitely put it up there as a potential fight of the year candidate. So I just wanted to point that out, but those are my thoughts.
So Danny, because if Cordina wins, which I think he'll do this Saturday, and it almost looks like a given, like Bay said, that the Lee Wood fight will be an automatic. I think Oshaki's going to have to wait. So why not do the rematch while you're waiting if you can't get a unification fight?
The reason why I wouldn't necessarily do the rematch if I was Oshaki Foster is because when you look at the scorecards, they was trying to job him. So unless he can get them to come over to his city, then there's no point doing it because they was going to try and scam him anyway. So he needed that stoppage to win at the end of the day. So it's better he does some kind of voluntary in the meantime, the same way Joe Cordina is doing a voluntary tomorrow night against Edward Hernandez. 15 wins, only 3 stoppages. So yeah, Oshaki Foster, he can have a tick over fight in the meantime, and then if Joe Cordina fights Lee Wood, yeah, you can have a tick over in the meantime, and then get the winner of Joe Cordina versus Lee Wood. And but as I didn't even know he was unsigned until Base just said it. So he needs to sort out that issue, because if you're unsigned and you're going into a big fight, that is definitely not the way you want to be going into a big fight. It's bad enough, even if you're not really the house guy, so to say. Like, for instance, Regis Prograis is like, I know boys Devin Haney, like I know he's with him, but at least Regis Prograis signed. So if he does get the win, Eddie still leaves with the champion. So it's better someone like Oshaki Foster does sign to Matchroom. That way Eddie feels that, yeah, Joe Cordina might be my guy like that, even though he's not the new Joe Calzaghe of Wales or the Steve Robinson of Wales, that if someone like Oshaki Foster does beat him, then at least I've got some DAZN USA shows to fall back on. So yeah, Oshaki Foster, he needs to get himself signed first and foremost, then get himself a nice little tick over fight. Nothing too strenuous, but definitely I wouldn't go for the rematch unless you're getting it back in your hometown. And then yeah, Joe Cordina, fight Lee Wood, because yeah, that's going to be a good shootout because they both knockout artists as of late. So yeah, I look forward to that one. That's going to be a nice treat for next year, 2024. And then yeah, the winner can fight Oshaki Foster, and then yeah, they can, whoever does win at domestic fight, if they can beat Oshaki Foster, then that can break them into the American market, and that'll do wonders for them. So yeah, I look forward to it. 2024 is looking quite prosperous for the super featherweight division.
So Ring, since he doesn't have a promoter, he's kind of, I don't want to say he's stuck, but he's got some challenges, to say the least, at least in my opinion. What do you think happens? Do you think Eddie could eventually sign him?
I mean, I think it would be wise for Eddie to sign him, not just because Emmanuel Navarrete is about to leave the division, but also because there's a fight coming up between Lamont Roach and this kid, the Dominican kid, the WBA champion. And I don't know if Lamont Roach is with the PBC. I don't know if he is, but just say that Lamont pulls it off and he wins. You don't want to wait around for Al to get you a fight. You understand that situation with the PBC and the broadcast partner and not knowing who's going to get fight dates, who are high priority fighters, who are low priority fighters. That could create an opportunity to maybe do a unification match between Oshaki and the winner of that fight. If you got some money to offer them, whoever wins, whether it's this guy, Hector Garcia, or if it's Lamont Roach, you could see about doing that. Like Base said earlier, you could see if the WBO title becomes vacant within the next 12 months. Maybe you can see about negotiating a situation for that. So I think, honestly, for Oshaki, you might want to sign with Matchroom, because if nothing else, you need to fight. As a free agent, you may not. You may sit out a year before you get another fight, but at least with Eddie, hey, he could give me a little ham and egg guy, say January, February, while I wait for the winner of Cordina versus Wood, because Joe's going to fight Lee Wood, bro. Now is the time. That's a money fight for Joe Cordina. What was he just whining about? Money. So he's going to do that before he rolls the dice with Oshaki. And I want to say that while I'm high on Joe, Oshaki showed me some shit. And I don't know if Joe beats Oshaki first. I don't know now. I don't know. It's a good fight. You know what I mean? But I do think he should sign the Matchroom. The moral of the story is, I believe he should sign the Matchroom, because as a network free agent in this climate, you won't fight.
No.
You won't fight. So you need a promoter to get you fights because you don't want to be waiting around 12 months for a phone call.
And it's not just the fact that he won't fight. Even if he does get a fight, they're always going to job him because you're not signed.
You have no leverage. You have no leverage.
No leverage.
No.
He did a hell of a thing taken out of the judge's hands, man. He did a hell of a thing.
That was an amazing fight. It was an amazing fight.
Hell of a thing, man. Because they just like Danny said, they was going to screw it. And that's what I was saying, that, yo, if this thing goes to the cards, hook or by crook, they're going to give it to Eduardo, bro. If it's close enough they can swing it to him, they will. It's in fucking Cancun, bro. Use your head.
It's crazy. They even gave him the 11th round. He was out on his feet for the majority of the round. He still won the 11th on that judge's scorecard.
Based on the last 30 seconds of the round.
I didn't even fucking think of that.
Yeah, it's 11-0.
I didn't even fucking think of that. That's amazing. Oh my God, that's crazy.
It's like hip hop, unsigned hype.
Real.
All right, so let's wrap it up with Joe Cordina since we're speaking about him. He's got the big fight with Eduardo Vazquez coming out, and he's a gigantic favorite, man. On paper, this looks like a mismatch, but sometimes these odds are wrong. Sometimes we get it wrong. I don't know. Any surprises this weekend with this fight, D-Style?
So this is one of those fights that Cordina should win, right? Cordina should. As long as he's keeping his eye on the ball and he's taking Vasquez serious and he's not overlooking him, he should win this fight, right? I think Cordina will win by decision or late stoppage, but I think he'll get the victory. I think Vasquez will have some success early. I think it'll be interesting for the first 2-3 rounds, but I think Cordina will take over. I think he'll either take a decision or get a late stoppage. But again, this is one of those fights that if for whatever reason Cordina doesn't have his eye on the ball, Vasquez is good enough to pull off an upset if you're not 100%, if you're not 100% focused, right? And not that Cordina is doing this, but it reminds me a little bit like when Paul Williams was gonna fight Quintana, and Paul Williams was not focused on Quintana. He was focused on the big names of the division. He was focused on other things. Is Cordina thinking about a Lee Wood fight, Lee Wood payday, and to focus on that, like Paul Williams was calling out Floyd Mayweather and Cotto and all the other guys in the division, but he had a good fighter in Quintana, which he proved in the rematch he could beat, right? But he wasn't focused on him, right? And after the fight, Quintana told him, "Hey, the entire press conference, you were talking about everybody except me. I told you to focus on me, right?" So as long as he's prepared properly, which I would bet that he has, Cordina should come out with a victory here and a pretty solid win for sure. And we could move forward to that Wood fight, which would be massive, I would assume anyway, in the UK.
So that's my sentiments exactly. Base, I was going to say the same thing. Could he be looking past him? He's got all these big fights on the horizon. So could this be like a possible banana skin here for him?
Yeah,
Evan?
No, BB. I think it sounds like he's echoing.
Who's echoing?
I don't know who's echoing. I muted myself.
Oh, I thought it was someone. Yeah, but it's all right.
Okay, no. I mean, yeah, you could say there's a possibility he might be taking his eye off the ball, but I actually don't think he is, because again, he's in Monte Carlo, so he's making a nice chunk of change over there, like he wanted to. This is where he wanted to fight, because there was no opportunities to fight in Wales. He like I said, the money's not really there for him in Wales unless it's a big, massive fight that everyone knows. So he's in Monte Carlo, like he is over there sort of living lavish life at the moment, driving flash cars and sort of really doing that Ocean's 11 lifestyle, and that's kind of what he wants. And he knows that this is a nice payday for him, but the next one is the big payday, and then after that there's another big payday. He only looking for big fights. So he realizes this is a format he has to deal with. I don't think he'll take his eye off the ball for this one, because he knows that the money he wants to make, he can't make if he doesn't win this fight. And I think that's whereas other people, they're sort of like, they're getting paid a lot and then but but this is the mega fight down the line. He's like, if I don't win this fight, there's no chance that I'm getting that mega payday because I'm already not a star. It's not like, you know, like a Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua, someone that's already making good money, is a big, you know, marketing, branding conglomerate and megastar. He's not like that. So he realizes to get that big bag, I've got to do this work first. So I don't see him taking his eye off the ball. And yeah, I actually, similar to D-Style, I think it's going to be a points decision. I think Vasquez is going to be, he's going to be very competitive in the first half. And then I feel like he's going to do a lot of moving in the second half of the fight and not get himself pinned down to not necessarily get any, to give Joe any real opportunity to take him out. But I think Joe will sort of like do enough in the overall scheme of the fight to get a points decision.
Good stuff. All right. What are your thoughts, Ring? Anything different to bring to this one?
No, I mean, I've got Joe winning a points decision. I don't think he's asleep at the wheel. And if he was, this past weekend is enough to wake him up. What happened this past weekend, that you can't really underestimate anybody. Vasquez was good enough to go to the cards with Raymond Ford about 2 fights ago. He lost the split decision. Joe has a strong punch, but he's not a gunslinger per se. You know what I mean? He's not going. He can box you up. He doesn't have to knock you out. He can box you up. I think he's going to box this guy up. I think he's going to win on points, cautious performance, and after that, here comes Lee Wood, and I think he beats Lee Wood, even though I'm a big Lee Wood fan. But on the predication that the next 2 fights are big money fights for him, he's not going to do nothing stupid out there. He's going to win on points. He's going to box this guy up, and it should be a decent win for him.
You're going to do a live watch for this one?
Yeah, because I want to be live for when Ali beats. I mean, the fight. My fight of the weekend is Ali versus Guzman. Personally, that's the one that I'm really energized and waiting for. This is just a run out. This is just a run out for Joe. That's all this is.
So you're working a little overtime, man. You're putting in the work.
Well, I mean, what do we got tomorrow night? Isn't there something? I mean, on Saturday night, is there a fight Saturday night?
Jaguar and Joe Goodall.
Yeah, I'm not going live for that.
And there's the Don King card as well. I don't know if you're interested in any of the fights on that. Ronald Bavo's on there against.
Yeah, that's for the BC. That's for the BC. That's right. I might have to give that a look. I might have to give that a look.
Yeah, Trevor Brown.
All right, so
I can't miss a Trevor Bryan fight, bro. I can't miss those.
Those are the best, huh? So Danny, I'm gonna map this out for you, man. If you would have bet $100 on Vasquez, you would get $700 back. Are you game?
No. No. Because what Vasquez going to do? His only key to victory is to try and box out of his skin, like he is. What's that guy? The Garcia guy from Spain.
Oh, Sergio Garcia.
Yeah, like he's some kind of Sergio Garcia from Spain, but I don't think he's that guy. Because Joe Cordina is an ex-former England rep GB boxer, so he knows how to box. He's now starting to sit down his punches, and he was able to drop Rakhimov, obviously get the knockout of the year in a lot of people's eyes in his fight before. So I think he should, if he's on it and he's fully on it, he feels like it, he should get the stoppage. Otherwise, he'll box to a very wide unanimous decision. I think he'll be looking to impress the Monte Carlo crowd, because I know him personally. I'm down the Matchroom gym with my cousin Craig Richards, so I get to speak to him. His first car was either a BMW or a Mercedes Benz. He comes from money, so he's into that James Bond lifestyle. So that's why he's boxing that in Monte Carlo. So yeah, he's into that, as Bay said, Ocean's 11. But I was thinking like James Bond, but it makes sense. He's into the fast cars, flashy life, slick hair. He's got a sick cologne collection. I'll tell you that much. That guy smells. Yeah, he smells.
Whoa!
Insights with Danny. I would have never known none of this. So this is top shit. Like, I would have never known none of this, bro.
No, he smells good, man. He smells
nice.
good.
Whoa.
He smells good, but that's the cologne. That's the cologne. I'm not saying that he's natural body odor in the morning. I'm not saying stuff like that.
Quit while you're ahead, Danny. Quit while you're
on this
ahead.
guy, man. I don't want to discuss any.
Let's take it easy, gents. Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute, guys. I got two Brits here. Henry Cavill, 007. Are you guys happy?
Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah,
He's a bit like bulky, but it's fine.
They're going down the Daniel Craig route because James Bond is not meant to be muscular. He's meant to be just an inconspicuous, average build type of guy. But yeah, let's go.
Henry Cavill, he gets like big and small sometimes. Like when he
Yeah.
So when
he's big in the Superman movies and shit, but I don't know. He's like that all the time.
No, he's not like that all the time.
No, but he's like, remember, he's a 6'2" guy. He's always at least 14 stone. Like James Bond is supposed to be like 11 and a half, 12 stone. He's not supposed to be, near 200 pounds.
Yeah, he's not a cruiserweight. James Bond ain't cruiser.
I mean, the heavyweight champion world should be fat as fuck, but we got what we got, right?
Whoa! Easy with the fat shaming, brother.
I just want to make sure I say this. So I want to get started with the Latinos for Joe Cordina. So it is pronounced Jose Cordina on this side of the world, so we can get that movement going. You know what I mean? Get that that Latino base up for him. I'm just saying.
He's not Latino. He's Maltese.
I know he's not.
Yeah, because a lot of people.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why you need hair on that head, bro.
We're starting a movement over here. We're starting a movement over here for Joe. Jose Cordina, para que lo sepa.
You don't want to like if Latinos think he's Latino, then that's money. That's money.
That's good enough, bro. We thought Razor Ramon was Latino.
Yeah.
I didn't know his name was Scott Hall.
I did. I thought he was Puerto Rican.
They based him out of Miami, so I knew they were going for a Cuban. But when I was a kid, I didn't give a shit. Just, hey, that guy's Spanish like me, so I was
what's
happy.
The Spanish commentary going to say? They're going to be Jose Cordina. Like that's what
Cordina, para que lo sepa.
Most Brits think that he's Italian because a lot of.
I thought he was Italian, Danny.
Yeah, because out of Wales, there's a lot of Italians like Calzaghe.
Yeah, think about the broad scope that he could reach. Italians could think he's Italian. Latinos could think he's Latino, right?
Hey, listen, Ben speaking that Spanish goes a long way, man. You got to get in where you fit in, bro.
Ben be looking more and more Mexican by the day.
Look, I still think Eddie Hearn fucked up never putting Conor Benn on the undercard of Canelo fights when he had him on Matchroom. A lot of the Spanish media was there. Bro, he would have stolen the show in the media days.
Just let him speak a little bit of Spanish. Let him say putazos and a couple of things, bro. Do you know how angry the Puerto Ricans were when they heard Danny Garcia not speak Spanish, bro? It's like, bro, I don't know what this is. He Italian?
If he was doing the interpretation for Joe Habib interviews, he wouldn't say coger for pick. I'm saying.
Whoa, buddy, please.
Yeah. Shout out to Jesse Rican. He was saying, "Amana te cogió a ti," like, but it is what it is.
He speaks the Norican Spanish.
He speaks something. He says something. I'm like, man, look, man, please don't speak Spanish, bro. Don't butcher my language, bro.
That's why my boy David Benavidez is starting to tap into the Spanish audience. I noticed he's speaking a lot of Spanish in his Ellie Seckback interview, so he's tapping in, man.
Well, I will say this, Danny. To David's credit, his Spanish is actually like, this is a Hispanic person. His Spanish doesn't bother me at all. But Danny Garcia,
one to 10 ring. What do you rank David Benavidez?
I mean, I could tell he's American, so I would say 7. When you hear him speak Spanish, you can tell he's American, but his Spanish is good.
Conor Benn wipes the floor with all these Mexican Americans in their Spanish. He just does. I'm just putting that out there.
What do you give?
Wipes the floor with them.
What do you give Conor Benn D-style on a scale of 1 to 10 Spanish speaking abilities?
It's like a 9, actually. It's really good.
A 9.
His pronunciation is a 9, but you could tell that his vocabulary is limited. But his pronunciation
I get it,
is very good.
He doesn't always speak it though. So we got to factor that. So, okay, you know what? An 8. I'll give it an 8.
And remember, he's one's the Spaniard version.
Yeah, he speaks Castilian Spanish, Castilian. So it's going to be different than what I speak or what somebody in Mexico speaks.
So let me ask the Spanish speaking people here. If you were interpreting, is it harder to interpret?
No.
Hard to pick up on the words and stuff.
But my favorite variation of Spanish is Mexican Spanish because they have words that are unique to Mexico, like putazos. Nacho said, if Crawford fights Spence again, lo va a putear. That's not actually a word, but
that
when I
means I'm
heard
gonna
it,
fuck you up. Yeah.
that's what it's one word for. He is gonna beat the shit out of that guy. Putear. It's one word. That's why I love Mexican Spanish, bro.
Are you Dominican, Ring?
I'm Dominican, yes.
You're Dominican. Okay.
What part?
San Pedro de Macorís.
No, because Based is 1/3 Dominican.
Oh, I know that.
Ness is Dominican. He speaks very good Spanish.
Well, technically, we're all New Yorkers. Like, if I don't know that Nestor was born in the Dominican Republic, I wasn't, but my family, my lineage is San Pedro de Macorís. That's where my family's from.
Ness was is from New Jersey.
Oh, there it is.
and shout out to all the Mexican Americans that we make up words in Spanish. Like we turn English words into Spanish, like car, carro. Like, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
It is.
Just saying, truck, troca. You know,
troca, coño, el tren instead of train.
Don't exist in Mexico, bro.
Tren, okay. And I would say that and Base knows this. Dominican Spanish is tantamount to patois. You know, it's broken Spanish. We just take syllables out of the word.
Creole.
Creole. A little bit. All right. Shout out to all the Spanish-speaking people out there.
I'm a little bit because remember Jamaica before the British took over, it was actually ruled by Spanish, so I know a tad.
Okay. All right, guys. That'll do it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, the chat. And we'll see you
Hit the like button. Hit the like button before you guys go.
Tyson Fury will be back.
No, he won't.
No, nunca. Hasta luego.
No más.